Hi everyone, this is Takatoshi Shibayama, the host of the Future Design Podcast. This podcast looks to empower listeners with perspectives on how we can challenge the social norm and evolve with better understanding of philosophy, spirituality, and ethics. Empowered individuals can have much stronger voice and influence in bringing about revolutionary changes in the world, whether you're building businesses or technologies. My guests and I speak about social constructs that are commonly accepted in the world today that's not working anymore, and how to rebuild them with ethical values to create a better future. In this episode, we have Peter Paul Parker. He's a meditation coach, Ki Gong instructor, and a sound healer. After an out-of-body experience on the road as a rock musician, he found out there was something outside of the physical realm that brought him into meditation and further into the world of Ki Gong, the ancient art of mastering the energy flow. He talks to us about the intricacies of our human body and mind that is connected by energy and interconnectivity with the exterior world. We get into the topic of the state of the earth we have now and the necessity to restore ourselves first. We all have the power to release energy externally, but we also have the power to take energy into ourselves, heal, and create positive energy externally again. Energy as a matter is flowing through and around us, and we have the ability to influence this. So without further ado, please enjoy this week's show.
Future Design Podcast.
Thank you for being on the Future Design Podcast. Welcome, Peter Paul Parker.
Good to be here. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for coming on board. And you have told me that you are a Ki Gong practitioner, you're a meditation coach, you are a sound healer as well, and you have a background in music as well. You played on really big bands before. Just before we go into those specific topics about healing and raising human consciousness, could you tell us who is Peter Paul Parker?
Well, that's a really big question because I could answer it on the material plane, which you've actually covered a lot of that. But who am I? I feel that my purpose here is to actually just find out information and spread that information in a peaceful way, because when I look at this world, and when I was born from a very early age, I was realizing that humanity is really competing quite heavily with itself, and I found that really wrong, actually. I thought, and then through all the research that I've been doing, it's actually cooperation that helps us to expand and grow. And really, who I am is I'm like an energy field that feels like I want to push this out to people and get people to sort of hear this information that I've done research. So, yeah, I feel I am a human being, and what a human being is there's so many different facets to being a human being. And a lot of us get frustrated and upset with it because it's such an enormous subject. So who am I? I could go on about quantum mechanics and quantum physics and the actual makeup of my body. But the essence of me is really wanting a peaceful transition for what we're going through at the moment as humanity, because it looks rocky. There's new things coming in, which is amazing, but also new things that are coming in that are too controlling for my likes. And so me as a human being, I feel like I'm here with a purpose to try and help spread information, to try and get people to open up their horizons to all the possibilities that are coming our way, which are actually really exciting.
Yeah, and that is exactly why I do this Future Design Podcast, especially on the Intera series, because I do want to raise the human awareness that we are going through a change. And with the Xterra series, we talk about how businesses can change people. But if we don't change as human beings, we can't create things the right way. And I believe that really strongly. And that's why I have this Intera series to talk to people like yourselves who are sounding alarms that we need to start looking at human consciousness as a whole, because we were so focused on material creation, and we are kind of illusioned in a way that all these material things that we're building are making or potentially making us happy, but we know for a fact that it is not, and sometimes it's making us lonely or depressed. And we need to think about what we're creating in this world, but by looking into ourselves internally first. So before we kind of start talking more around that topic, could you tell us, like, you said that you were a musician before and you started to discover and started to research around the topics that you were mentioning. I mean, how did you come to that kind of point where you decided to go down that path?
Well, I came from a very traumatic childhood, so I had a very good education, but my parents died when I was very young. So I went into like a sales job, and I was really good at it, and I was making lots of money, and I thought, I'm just really miserable. This is really making me unhappy. So I gave it all up to become a musician. Rather irresponsibly, my family thought I was, but never mind. So I became a musician, and I got really good at it because I learned to focus my energies, which was of trauma and anxiety and almost depression, into my music, and therefore I became really good at it. And I went to college and studied the bass guitar, and started, like you say, I started playing with some top players. And I realised those moments on stage when I was playing with excellent musicians, it was like an enormous meditation for me. So it was relieving my trauma and my stress and my anxiety. And that unfortunately dried up when the rock scene started to fade away. It started to dry up. The work started to dry up in the studio and also for the live work. But while I was a musician, I had 2 out-of-body experiences which really made me think about who is Peter Paul Parker, which is why it's difficult to explain that when you asked me that at the beginning, because you get rid of all of this emotional conditioning, all the emotional baggage, all the education that you've had when you come into that position of being out of your body and looking down at your body. And that was interesting to me because at that time, when in the bands that I was in, they actually let me go because they thought I'd gone completely mad, because I kept on talking about there's more to this, there's more to this, there's more to our condition than actually just this physical material plane. So that got me into it. My wife and I went to a mind and body spirit show, and we started looking at different types of meditations and practices and things like that. And we got this Kirlian photography that we found, which takes pictures of your aura. And my wife's were these beautiful gold and orange colours, and mine's were these blue and purple esoteric colours, and she wanted one like mine. So we walked around the corner, and she got her photograph taken again outside of this stall when I started to talk to one of the people outside of it, and they were talking about Ki Gong, which was a Korean form of Ki Gong, and so I started talking to her about that. And because I'd studied Taekwondo and also Bruce Lee for martial arts when I was in my early 20s, so I became a black belt of that. So I was au fait with the kind of concepts of the Asian philosophies of that, and I found it fascinating talking to her about the Tao philosophy, because Bruce Lee kind of hinges on the Tao philosophy, but not in the way that the Koreans were explaining it from their Sunday culture. So I went straight to the training and started training with this Ki Gong, and realised very quickly that my anxiety and stress were starting to relieve very quickly. And I started getting deeper into the meditations, deeper into the breathing practices, and realised that when I was meditating in the room, I was suddenly becoming the only person in the room, say full of 50 people. I felt like I was the only human being in that room, and that room was filled with my energy, which was getting me closer and closer to my out-of-body experiences, what I was searching for. So I realised actually it was my intentions that was all askewed when I was trying to get into this in the first place, because I was thinking of it in a more material aspect rather than an energetic aspect. And what that made me realise is that our energy is just as important as our physical, or our physicality, I should say. So our energy body, we tend to ignore that, and we've gone completely into the materialistic realm. And what's happening in today's world is that we're getting pulled into this materialistic realm with all the stuff that we can actually do as a human being outside of the materialistic realm. And we're not using this as a wonderful tool for us to become more as a human being. We're using it as like a prop, and not doing the work inside of ourselves to actually make ourselves more, say, enlightened or more aware, raising our consciousness so that we can see things for what they really are. We're kind of going down a rabbit hole, and to me it's quite alarming, because you think, actually, if we're using this technology, which is amazing, for our benefit and our growth, that's fantastic. But if we're using it as a prop to take over what we can actually do, that's a very dangerous line to go down. And that's what I find absolutely fascinating about all of this, which is why I thought your podcast was amazing, or is amazing, is because you're actually starting to address this and starting to see things that this doesn't have to be done in a violent, revolutionary way. We can actually grow into these systems and turn these systems so they benefit us rather than actually become enslaved by them, as it were. So it's a really interesting time, and that's what happened with me when I first started getting into my Ki Gong practice. Was I was asked to go and teach the elderly because my parents had died when I was very young and I had no contact with my elderly relatives. And I said to my teacher, I said, well, I've just come from the music business. It's all young, young, long-haired dudes. What am I going to do with the elderly? So I said, yes, I'll do it. And what made me realize that we are, again, instilled in me, we're all energy inside of our bodies, is that the elderly people started to actually take this training seriously, because I thought, well, it's mind, body, sort of breath training, or even spirit. And I thought they would be pushing it aside, saying it was like woo-woo or sort of a bit strange for them. And it was a bit strange for them at first, but when they realized it was starting to benefit them and their consciousness was starting to rise and they were starting to share it with other people, the room started to become more and more packed. And I was only doing this as like a voluntary basis, but I realized the power of this. Once you start to connect more with your energy body, you start to open up. Because in our stressed world at the moment, we get addicted to cortisol, which actually pulls you into your physical body and pulls you into the materialistic realm. But when you start to open up your energy body, which is coming down into the parasympathetic nervous state, you start to accept and become more open-minded about different possibilities and different ways forward for us to take. And that's what I was finding in the elderly community centres, because felt like they were thrown on the scrap heap, they were being ignored, and they were being bullied by the doctors. And all of a sudden you found them taking back control of their lives and starting to turn that community centre into a buzzing, thriving place. And everyone noticed the difference after I'd done a class with the elderly people there. Said, well, even the owner said it was tangible how different the people are once you come out of there. And all it was them connecting with themselves through. We do it in a very joyful way, the way I've been taught with the Korean way with Ki Gong. It's very joyful, it's not very serious at all, but the concepts are very serious. And I think that's why I did it. I managed to do it in like a Western type scenario, because it's joyful and fun. And you're making them realize that they can't actually work their bodies the way that they should be able to. And just doing little mind hacks like that. So showing them when they're doing an exercise as simple as pushing your palm and your fist out and then switching it, pushing that away from your body, and then bringing that into your body and tapping your, what they call the lower danjian, or the dantian, they call it in Chinese, and doing that into your body. How many people find that really difficult was astounding, because they suddenly realized, actually, when I come into my body, I find this really difficult. When I go out, I find this really easy. And to me, that is to do with our mind conditioning. We're trained to go out and we don't come back in. And I'm not saying that's a blanket thing for everybody, but that to me made me realize that it's actually the journey inside that we need to be taking to appreciate the journey outside. And I'll just say, to become successful out, you need to be successful in. And that's really where I'm at with my energies, and realizing the energies that we use for a lot of what we do as human beings is messed up, is absolutely skewed up, and we need to start to cleanse that in the way to have a successful life and to be successful on this planet, because we are part of it and we need to be part of it, rather than thinking that we're away from nature, because we need to be part of nature as well as the wonderful things that we've created.
Yeah, there's so many pins that I want to put into what you just said, but let me just roll it back a little bit in the beginning parts of the response, that you were talking about an outer body experience. Now, a lot of people can experience outer body experiences by, one, maybe dying or almost dying, or through meditation, or maybe hallucinogenic type of activities that they do. But how did you get into, or how did you experience this outer body experience?
Well, the first time was actually when I was playing with Thin Lizzy. I was playing bass for them on a big gig. It was my first actual big gig, which was weird because it was the emotions of the band and the emotions of the crowd that were actually really connected with each other, and that energy was just phenomenal. And I just found myself, it was during a song called Dancing in the Moonlight. It was a big jam part of the song, and I found myself just leaving the body, going up to the auditorium and hearing like a vibration underneath me, which was obviously the music of the band, but it wasn't really like a sound hearing. But I could see as well, but it wasn't like seeing. It was more like ripples of seeing. And when I see now, there's a documentary out called Superhuman at the moment, and they're showing that people can see with their consciousness before they see with their eyes. And they're actually putting blindfolds on children and getting them to read books, play football in fields and things like that with blindfolds on, so we can see with our consciousness. And I realise now that that's what I was doing. It was just my consciousness. I was seeing with my consciousness and hearing with my consciousness, but not actually hearing what we hear as a five sense reality, because I haven't got the ear structure, obviously, for the physicalities for me to accept that sound. So that came when I was playing with Thin Lizzy, and that's when I came down to earth, and people thought I was a complete space cadet. All the musicians I was with, all these hardcore rock dudes, so they go, "Oh, who is this guy? He's just come down from a spaceship?" And then the second one happened about 6 months after that, when I was just lying down in my house, just resting, and all of a sudden I just popped out of my body again. But this time I felt like I was connected to everything. It was almost like a quantum experience that I just kind of shot across the universe and then came back into my body. And again, for the next few days, speaking to me was like speaking to a space cadet. I was like, wow, we're all connected, man. This is all amazing stuff. And that just happened, just from me sitting there, not really particularly thinking about anything. I must admit, I had all TV, all radio, all music off. It was dead silent. I was sitting there. Which was quite unusual for me at that time, because I was more sort of like, give me something to feed my mind with, all the time, which is what we're kind of living like at the moment. And I wasn't doing that, and this just again suddenly happened. And if you can just imagine releasing all of the memories that you've got, all of the preconceptions, all of those painful memories, because we do suffer on this planet, and all those painful memories, all those interactions that you felt embarrassed about, or you wish you hadn't have done. Just imagine just losing all of that and just coming back pure into yourself as consciousness. And there's still an element of you about it that is you, but all the other stuff you realise is what I call garbage now. It's just like we hold on to this stuff that just doesn't serve us anymore. And why are we doing that? And that's what my question really was to myself. How do I get back to that place? And then I got lost a little bit with that along the way. I got back into music, got back into the lifestyle of music, and it was the rock world at the time, so there was lots of drinking and partying and all that fun stuff. So I kind of got lost in that again, and then when that dried up, that's when I realised I was still suffering from trauma from my childhood, and that's when I started to deal with my trauma through the Ki Gong. But the out-of-body experiences, I think, were key for me to jump into the mind, body, spirit arena with an open mind, because I realised there's something more to this, and I wanted to find it. And it's very difficult because there's lots of people who cherry pick stuff, and they pick stuff and they say, oh, here you go, this is what it's all about, or they go, here you go, this is what it's all about. And what I've found is actually it's all about your own personal experience with this, because some of us are they find this very easy. Like I went to the International Academy of Consciousness to try and get this explained to me in London, and we did some tests there, and it was just, what they did was mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. I remember sitting there in one of the lectures, and this guy said to me, well, he said to all of us, he said, right, just partly close your eyes and look at me. So we partly closed our eyes and looked at me, and what happened was absolutely phenomenal. He said he was going to bring in energies from other spheres. I mean, these are credible scientists. They didn't put up with any sort of woo-woo stuff at all. So we sat there and we watched this guy's face turn from like just a face, a normal face, into a long bearded face. Then he turned into like a female. Then he completely disappeared, and then these sort of stars started coming up from behind him, and I was going, oh my goodness me, am I losing my mind here? So he stopped at the end of it and turned the lights back on, and he said, does anybody want to share what they just saw? And I thought, am I gonna put my hand up? So being me, I put my hand up and said, yeah, I do. And I explained what I saw, and then someone next to me said, yeah, I saw that too. And then my wife said, yeah, I saw that too, but I didn't see the stars. And someone said, well, I saw the faces, but I didn't see anything else. And I thought, what were we looking at there? And he's trying to explain that he was allowing other energies to come into his vehicle, into his body. And to me, this was like, what are we? What are we completely? And I hadn't even taken up the Ki Gong at that point. But I realised that there's so much more to us than actually meets the eye, and we should be looking at that rather than looking at creating things that are just going to be sucking us down a rabbit hole. We should be looking at what we are and what we can actually achieve and what we do. Because I feel what we are creating as human beings, we can actually do that naturally if we were to learn how to do that. And just going back to our ancestors back in the Indus Valley in India, they said on the temples, we will carry on building temples until human beings realize that they are the temple. So we have the answer to us, all of this inside of us. And on all the temples there also was know thyself. I mean, it sounds really simple and trite, but to know thyself, who am I, what am I doing here, and why am I here? Those three enormous questions. That's the quest I'm on, and you get glimpses of it, and it's like the universe giving you breadcrumbs to give you the places to come onto, and it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal journey once you start to take that path. So that's where the out of body sort of sequence kind of led me to searching at the International Academy of Consciousness, who do a lot of work. I think it's in Portugal or Spain. I haven't been to see them for many years now, but when I started looking into it, that's where I went for about a year or so with their courses and things like that. Because they train people to do out-of-body experiences, but I've never had one since. I've only had two. But I feel more connected with the field, especially with the sound healing that I do. I feel more connected with the area around me and actually the people around me now than I ever have done before. So I think our mind, personally, I feel our mind is like a protection for us not to go too far with this, because I've been through training sessions where I've had a week of training and I literally didn't know where to put one foot in front of the other because I'd lost so much of the preconceptions that I've had in my life. And to me, that means we have things ingrained into our DNA which can be changed, which is what this new epigenetics is all about. And to me, that's phenomenal. If we can change like that, we can walk into a world where we can have it exactly as we want it and still be having this growth outside of it, which I find incredible.
Yeah, the way you talk about it, it almost seems like we don't even need our outer shell or this vessel to communicate or feel each other or go to places, because if we are connected, just, in this world right now, seeing you and I or some people around us just through our physical body, but actually we're all connected, even with the person, halfway around the world or anything like that, then, this shell right now is actually a limitation to what we can actually do.
That's how I'm feeling at the moment. Yeah, that's how I feel at the moment. Yeah. And you look at the militaries have actually been into this as well with remote viewing. If you get through to the documents that they've released through the Freedom of Information Act, they have looked into remote viewing on spying from people astrally projecting over to different areas of the world, and they've done tests on that and shown it to be really accurate. So I feel that this is the reason for us being on this planet, is to raise our consciousness to actually walk into this type of way of living. And I think we could have such a beautiful world with such wonderful technology for us to experience this. So, because it's all different levels for different people, and that's where I think the compassion and empathy needs to come from people who are starting to raise their consciousness to put their hand out and try and help others to do the same. And I find that our world can become very cut off and cold in the way that if we're competing with each other, which came from the Darwin sort of way of thinking about 200 odd years ago, is wrong, is absolutely wrong. And he even said that in his books. He said, this is just a theory and I don't think it's right. So he was saying it's like survival of the fittest, and for some reason, usually it was about money and power, we've been pushed into this competitive mode with each other through wars and economic hitmen sort of going into other countries and destroying them. But it's all part of a learning process to realise this is the wrong way for us to build our civilization up. And we're right at the cusp of learning this learning process, which has been pretty savage for a lot of the planet and pretty savage on the planet, for us to come through that. And I'm speaking to a lot of people recently about, they're saying, well, people in Microsoft or people in Google and all these big companies, they're starting to wake up, move away from those companies and starting to set their own thing up, because they don't want to be part of this big conglomerate, which you feel like a faceless minion in it, and they want to be part of their own expression of this world. And I think we're setting up a place now where we can all express ourselves. Look what we got with social media, which is not great because it was set up to cause psychosis, and that's being admitted by the people who set it up. But that is also another way of you being able to express yourself. But I feel that it should always be with human beings in the flesh or energetically with each other. Because I do Ki Gong online as well as teaching it in rooms, and it's so much better in rooms because you feel the energy change in the room. You feel people coming from the stress state into the parasympathetic nervous state, the rest, digest and heal state, and you can actually feel and touch that energy. Is tangible, and it's amazing, and it's beautiful to see human beings' face just change and light up, and that beautiful big smile coming out, going, oh, there you are, you've connected with your heart, now look at you, you're beautiful in your own uniqueness. And that's what I love about teaching Qigong. I do get it a little bit online with interactions with emails and group calls and things like that, but we are designed to be together. And there have been studies where they show that human beings, when we're in a tribe of about 150, 200 maximum, we can actually get to know each one of those human beings, 200 people, really, really well. I mean, really, really well. Goes past that, it starts to go into fogginess. So to me, on the material realm, we're designed to be in groups, little groups like that, and that is being taken away from us. Our communities are slowly dying. I don't know about where you live, but here they are, and I'm doing my best to try and bring the community spirit back. But you feel like you're battling against a system that doesn't want you to do that. And that's where I find I call them out, because I'm very outspoken in that respect. And they say, no, we want to bring the community back together. So I tend to make headway in making that community come back together. But it is a battle. It's not easy. And I've set up charities to help the elderly with Qigong. And that's a battle. We're just trying to get the finance for that. Even when we've done an impact report on the amazing results that we had, it's still difficult to get the finance to bring the instructors in to take them into the elderly community centres, because the way that it works, the whole financing of charities. I feel if we were to have a banking system that was to give people what they needed to go out and help the world would transform overnight. But we seem to be run by a central banking system that is feeding itself and serving itself and causing all these disruptions across the world because it wants to take control of the whole world. If the banking system, the central banking system, was run for the countries like Iceland did it after the big collapse in 2008, and actually funded the money for the people with proper economics and the proper way forward, that would actually really work. And you would find that the human societies would transform overnight, because more people who, like me, who are trying to get a better society and a better community within their local community, will have the funding to do that. And I'm finding a lot of people who are in this charity sector, and I've been through it for about 4 or 5 years now running the charity. It's really difficult if you want to get out there and actually help people to empower themselves to get on with their lives. And I find this wrong. This is where we've gone really wrong with this whole centralization of the banking system. And there are communities that are breaking away from that, like in India and South Africa. You've got Baba Ramdev in India, who's setting up villages who are becoming self-sufficient and sharing their ways with each other, and therefore they're starting to thrive down there. Also, you've got that happening in South Africa with Michael Tellinger, who's doing the Ubuntu, and he's helping many, many different people thrive, human beings thrive in those areas. And you've got them cropping up everywhere now. You get these little villages of people who are wanting to be self-sufficient, still love the technology that we've got, but still want to be human beings. And I think that's where we're in a dangerous position at the moment, because we could lose our humanity to technology, and I think that's wrong. That could be the biggest mistake humanity makes. And I've seen people who claim in the UFO field that the greys that come back and visit us are human beings that lost their way with technology and just become this grey suit and still connected with their consciousness. I don't know if that's true or not. I've got an open mind, but I don't know if that's true because I've never experienced that. But it's a very interesting thought to think, if you lose yourself, your body to this technology, i.e. you get these neural net implants and things like that, that's a very dangerous way to go down, to us all becoming cyborgs and not being human at all. Because to be human is a phenomenal thing, and I think we're losing that whole feeling of it being phenomenal and being scared by the fear and all the propaganda that's being thrown around the world at the moment. I think that's an awful thing, and I think once we start to connect with ourselves more as human beings, we'll use this world for the playground that it is and the learning place that it is for us to learn and grow. Because if we don't grow, we're not going to go anywhere, and technology will just take over. So, but it's all there for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this world has really focused itself on logic and forgot about our senses, right? So whether it be six senses or whatever they are, but it's an easy way down, because if you can explain something right now, not in the future, but right now, that whatever technology or scientific discoveries you had up until now, and you can explain something, then people just go with that. And they don't take the extra step to think even deeper and say, okay, what is this kind of feeling that I have? What is this consciousness that we have? Can we look into that a little bit more? Because I know it's difficult, and you can just say that science hasn't proved it, so it doesn't exist. Very easy to say, but that's not really the answer, right? And when you talk about things about, technology not being fit for humans, I think a lot of the technologies initially was trying to bring people together, right? Internet was trying to bring people together. Social media was trying to bring people together. Social media also even pushed down the barriers for people to, talk about themselves. Or we're doing this podcast, the barriers to entry into podcasts has gone down so much that I can start it with practically nothing, and all I have to do is just buy some equipment, put it online. So there's always this good intent by people in the beginning that want to connect more people, be in touch with people all over the world, and be able to express themselves, whether through their thoughts or music or any types of art. But I think once it hits that kind of level where you need to have funding or some, kind of, I wouldn't say capitalism, but, when money meets these ideas, that's when everything changes, because then you have shareholders and you have to pay shareholders, and shareholders are very short-sighted. So they want quarterly results and everything has to make money. And so you think about, how do I monetize this? Oh, can I sell ads? That's probably the easiest way to do it. So then when all this money starts coming in, it becomes a lot more complicated. And once it becomes a large corporation, like you said, go Google or, Facebook or whatever these companies are, then they go into politics, right? You have your lobbyists that go into politics and try to create a moat around their business so that other companies can't come in, so they can monopolize the whole industry. So when these money and politics starts coming in to these very, I would say, humane ideas that we're trying to bring in, that's when it really collides. So I'm not saying that we should get rid of money or politics. I think it's just used in a wrong way. And I think that being more conscious about, kind of going down the path of trying to be together, understanding each other, listening to our music, whatever it is, Thin Lizzy, whatever those types of music it is. I love Thin Lizzy, by the way, and being able to kind of, he's an individual musician, be able to post their music online and be recognized. That's something beautiful that we need to pursue. But we have to kind of balance that out with logic or money or politics. And that's the balance that I've been trying to kind of talk about quite a lot here, is like, how can we push that a little bit more and more away so that we can build businesses without the kind of necessity of all this money and politics having to create regulations around their business so we can protect ourselves, right? That's not really the way we want to do it. So, there's no answer to this, and in this conversation could go in many ways. But but because we're talking about the experiences of energy, you mentioned many times about Ki Gong, but for a lot of the listeners who have not experienced or ever heard of this practice, could you go a little bit deeper to explain to us what it exactly is, so that we can so I can ask a little bit more questions around that as well?
Yeah, of course, yeah. Just to address what you said, I think you're right about politics and money, that they're not serving us at the moment, and it's like very divisive and polarizing, which I really completely disagree with. So, but Ki Gong is a wonderful. Ki means energy, Gong means utilizing well or even mastering. So it's all about you and your energy. It's combining your mind, your body and your breath together. So you have what they call an energy system in the Eastern Indian practice. It's called the chakra system. You have 7 energy balls coming up the center of your body, and they're all connected to your nerve end. So it's like your vagus nerve. So on the physical side is your vagus nerve, which is like the commander-in-chief of your nervous system, which is the beginnings of your 5 sense reality. But before that, you have your energy. So energy creates matter, and that's been scientifically proven now. So we have to have something inside of us to create matter, and that's our energy system. And our ancestors came up with the chakra system and the meridians. So the meridians have been scientifically proven to exist with radioactive isotopes. The chakra system is a little bit more difficult because each of the there's nerve endings on each chakra, which could be argued that you finding that energy in the body can be just a nerve ending, and it kind of is because that's where the energy is coming in. And we now know by scientific discovery as well that mitochondria help to release new energy into the body, so you can tap the body and release new energy, which is part of the Ki Gong practice, is tapping. But the easiest way to describe it, as I say, that's the main train stations, is your chakra system, or we call them the 3 danjons, the 3 palaces in the Tao philosophy. Is the lower danjon, which would be your sacral chakra, your middle danjon, which is your heart chakra, and your upper danjon is your third eye chakra, right in the middle of your head. And your meridian lines are like the tube, the train station, the train tracks, and the acupressure points are like the outer train stations where energy comes in and out. And so your lower danjon is to do with your power, your passion, and your creativity, which has neurons the same as your neocortex. So they're connecting with each other through the vagus nerve, through the neurons. So we have an intelligent system straight away, and to do with your power and your passion. So if that's not running properly, you'll have an insecure feeling or not being safe feeling. So you need to get more and more into your body, more material into your world, as it were, more material gain, more safety, more security, when that's not running properly. But when it is running properly, you feel fine, which is why we focus on our practice on the lower danjon straight away, to get that feeling or that sense of being fine and being secure. And then that comes up to the middle danjon, which is your heart. So you've got to come through the solar plexus chakra, which is your willpower, and a lot of people are filled with acquiescence. They don't do anything about their lives to change anything, and that's to do with their solar plexus being blocked. So once you unblock your solar plexus chakra, you come up into your middle danjon, which is your love, your empathy and your compassion. And when you realise that you actually do love everything and everybody, even the people I used to, if ever I got into a conversation, say for instance about George Bush or Tony Blair, I used to get really angry. Now I don't, because I realise that they've done what they've done to take the world into a place where it's going to change. Because I don't think people are going to put up with that for too much longer, what they did. And so I'm not angry, I feel for them more, because I realise that the position that they're in, they're just playing a part in this whole change that we're going through at the moment. And that's a completely different perspective. So I have compassion for them, to feeling that they were stuck in that position. I don't still agree with what they did, but I can realise why it happened. And that's me opening up my heart chakra and my empathy and my compassion, which actually makes me see the world in a completely different place. And then when you're coming up through the throat chakra, I'm starting to open that a lot more. So my the way of explaining things in this tricky field that I've chosen to be in, to explain it, I'm getting better at it, which is great. That means the throat chakra is opening. Then you come up to your third eye, which is your natural intuition, your vision, and your wisdom. Wisdom, or what we would call common sense, seems to be going out the window rapidly in a lot of the world that we live in today. And it's getting that back, bringing that common sense back, bringing that intuition back, going, this doesn't feel right, we shouldn't be doing this. Or I feel like I shouldn't be doing this because this doesn't feel right. There's actually your natural radar, your natural system to find that you can't, you shouldn't be doing something, or you're naturally wise going, well, if I do that, this is going to happen to my body, so I shouldn't be doing that. That seems to have all gone out the window for a lot of us, because we're not waking up the upper danjon. So with Ki Gong, with simple exercises like opening joints and stretching, we call it Jigam, which is like an energy meditation where you start to feel the electromagnetic energy around your body, and deep breathing, tapping. All of these little exercises really help to release the body of all this stuff. And if we don't get rid of it, it causes, now it's been scientifically proven to cause problems. So they did a study on gallbladder problems, and they had a control group where the people who were having the problems with their gallbladder just left them and they carried on their lifestyle as they are. And they took another control group and they did Ki Gong and Tai Chi with lots of breathing and moving. Ki Gong was a precursor to Tai Chi. I'll come into that in a second. And they found that the people who took up the Ki Gong and Tai Chi, they didn't get the gallstones, and the ones who didn't did. So there's like, if you don't deal with this stress or anxiety inside your body, it actually turns into a physical manifestation, which is why I feel one of the reasons that humanity is becoming the sickest species on the planet by far. We are really not well because we're not looking after our energy body. But Ki Gong came before Tai Chi. Ki Gong is like a healing art, so it's an artistic form as well. And you have medical Ki Gong, which is what a lot of the moves are, is to actually help you with your health and well-being. And Tai Chi is more of a martial art where you're learning specific moves, but they're both to relax the body while you're in motion. So you're and also to be mindful while you're in motion, because a lot of us who do exercise, we're just going and doing the exercise in autopilot. But if actually you really focus your mind on that movement and on your body, you actually really start to benefit much more from that exercise and that moving around. And it's incredible how you can change your perception of this world through doing this practice. And I know because I've done it, and I've completely gone from this out-of-body experience thinking, what the heck was that all about, coming into this position where I am now, where I'm really breaking lots of preconceptions that I have as a human being, and now helping others to do that. I see the path that I've taken, came up with a process that I've used, and start to share it with other people and seeing really amazing results with them. So Ki Gong is really life. It's kind of to do with your life, and it was to do with, in China in particular, it was to do with the traditional Chinese medicine outlook on your health. And with the Ki Gong instructors, they would only get paid when the people or their clients were actually healthy. When their clients became unhealthy, it means they weren't doing their job properly, so they wouldn't get paid at that point. And how different it is today with our healthcare, because we pay for people when we're not sick. We do in this country anyway. and then we don't have to pay when we are sick. It's completely turned around from that. So Ki Gong is like a holistic way of looking after the body, which is why I'm really a big advocate of it, because I haven't really taken any medication for so long. I feel great, and I've had bad back. Well, I've got rid of my bad back. I had bad knees. That's all gone. I've had a traumatic injury to my spine when I was about 11 years of age. That's got better now. And I had a motorbike accident where I'd fractured my elbow and my collarbone. That used to ache in the winter. It doesn't ache anymore. I just feel so much better. And from now I'm in my 50s, I feel like I'm back in my 30s. Whereas when I was in my 30s, because of my drinking in the music business, I felt like I was in my 50s. So I've completely turned it all around as a human being. And it's been wonderful for me. And that's why I'm such a big advocate of it, because I want more people to actually start to experience that in whatever way that they want to experience it. It doesn't have to be through me, but just start to connect with your body and move your body around so you enjoy it like a child again. Because I really like to say, especially when you're having a guided meditation, use your imagination like a child, because we've lost that. We're losing that as adults. It gets drummed out of us. And that imagination is so powerful. If you combine that with the focus of your mind, you can achieve so much just for yourself, and then you can achieve so much for the people around you. And that's what Ki Gong does. It helps you to focus much better with your mind, focus much better on your body. You find very quickly where the weaknesses are in your body, and therefore you can start to heal that and fix that, which I think these bodies are just, each time I do a little bit more research into the human body, just incredible, absolutely incredible machines, and we should be actually looking after them in a lot better way than what we actually are, and we just take them for granted. And they are just vehicles, yeah, if you look at it on a more spiritual way, and our energy is actually in the vehicle, but they still should be looked after with absolute care and attention. And we're not doing that. We're putting junk food into our bodies, and we've got a junk environment that's around us with all the pollution and that's happening in our atmosphere and things like that. So all of that needs to be looked at and healed. And once that is, you'll find that human beings, I believe we should live to 120 years of age and possibly more with a fit, healthy body. And we tend to be checking out 70s, 80s, 90s. Now some people get up to about 100. But we should be doing 120, but still have all your faculties about you. And we're not doing that at the moment. So to me, there's something wrong with our environment. And that's what Ki Gong has showed me as well, that once you start to work on your energy body as well as your physical body, you actually turn around the aging process and look a lot better for it. So that's important as well. Longevity, health, well-being, deep breathing, your connection with the world and the connection with the environment around you, all of that changes, and all of it, you look at it completely differently. It's like I was sitting there on one of the benches out in the garden the other day, and this fly just landed, and I was just mesmerised by this fly. He dropped his wing and he started scratching his ear, then he started cleaning his eyes, then he started cleaning his wing. So I was going, wow. And then this other fly landed about 6 inches away from him, and they both started using their front paws, one after the other, like they were communicating, and they both flew off together, kind of in tandem. And I went, what was that all about? You know, it was like really amazing I was honoured to be part of that little interaction that these two flies were having. I don't like flies, but I was like really into it. It's like, wow, you know, thanks guys for sharing that with me. I would never have spoken like this, 20 years ago when I was coming out of a rock gig and things like that. I was more, where's the Jack Daniels, and things like that. Now I'm a lot more sensitive to the world and a lot more sensitive to what's going on around me. And I think that connection with ourselves is inherent in all of us. I really do believe that. And we can share that love and that empathy and that compassion with everybody. And then all the trust starts to disappear. And then you've got people trying to make personal gain, like you were talking about shareholders earlier and things like that. As soon as you've got someone who's serving themselves rather than serving the community, that's where the troubles start. If you come to the realization of what's good for me is good for you also, what a wonderful world that would be. Then therefore you become more more sort of understanding of other people's needs. You don't encroach in them, and you don't push into their world. You don't try to take from them. You're just sharing with them, and part of that is sharing energy, which is money. And what you're saying is true. It's happening anyway. There's a whole different world happening underneath the world that's being created above us, and that's the world that's going to take over, because that's the real world with the real human beings in it, and the world with the people who are going to be moving forward with society, rather than the ones who are self-interested and trying just to make money for the sake of making money. It's actually going to be a world where we're going to be working together to build something so that we can pass it on to our children, and they won't be looking at us and going, what on earth did you do?
I think they're already saying that already.
So
yeah, but you know, I've done Ki Gong before. I had a medical practitioner when I was a teenager, and I had a problem with my shoulder, and I was doing competitive swimming, and no X-ray or MRI would find what was wrong with my rotator cuffs. And I went to Ki Gong, or in Japan we call it Ki Gong, and the medical practitioner was helping me rotate this arm, and after a couple of sessions it was actually gone, and I was quite amazed by it. And then she would kind of look around my back, and she'll pull me, and she could move me without even touching me, which was amazing. And then in the end she told me that my hips, or kind of my lower back, would have problems when I grow older, which is exactly true. I had when I picked up a motorcycle, I I injured my back, and since then it's never really been great. And every time, like if I'm sitting on the floor cross-legged and I try to get up, there's always a stiffness in my hips. So maybe I probably need to revisit that again. You know, it sounds what you were telling me is something that I probably need, and definitely I'll kind of look into that. But you were talking about this kind of, you know, even before recording this, is that, you know, we are kind of moving into a different world, and I believe that too. And do I see signs of it? A little bit, but I'm still not sure of that. But what I see is that, you know, all this, you know, the financial system is broken. Our political system is broken. The way we communicate and interact with each other is broken. Now, a lot of things seems broken to me. And even with the earth itself, you know, maybe we're not causing climate change, but we're definitely polluting it for sure. That's definitely true. And the way we treat each other is reflective of how we treat the earth as well. And there will be a point where this doesn't work anymore completely, and something has to change. And I think we're at that cusp of that as well. Now, what do you think is the crucial event that would change things around, or do you think that will be more gradual? And if it does, I mean, what kind of future do you actually foresee?
That's a really great questions. If you look at what some of the people are exposing in the field of, like, the conspiracy field, they've sort of predicted a lot of the stuff that had been coming, and it was von Brunner, what was his name? He came from Germany to help build the rocket systems in America. He was a Nazi scientist, and he said to his assistant that the powers that be that want to guide this planet want to create a false flag. A false flag means that it actually wasn't the people who were perpetrating the event. A false flag event making out that it's ETs invading the planet. So it's getting so ridiculous with a lot of the false flags that I'm seeing at the moment that the government has no credibility to me whatsoever. Our mainstream media in the UK have got no credibility with me at the moment. And I'm not alone there. There's more and more people I'm meeting every day in the UK or in my local area who are feeling much the same way. So this shift in consciousness of actually looking at what's happening and going, how can you believe what these people are saying anymore? Because you've got now scientists who are being bought and paid for by big pharma, big tech companies and things like that. And you're seeing that now. It's like almost so obvious that you can't miss it. And that's what's happening, and that's where this change is coming, where people are saying, I don't want to put up with this anymore. I can't put up with this anymore. I've got children on this planet. I've got things invested in this planet. I've got time invested in this planet. I don't want someone to mess it up. So you've got now big movements of people saying, I don't want this anymore. And that is that change in consciousness. If you look at back at when 9/11 happened, and they had sensors around the planet, and it showed an enormous EMF rise in a certain frequency, and that was fear. And if you think about that fear being that enormous on the planet, we can do it in another way. It takes less people to actually put love, compassion and empathy onto the planet to change the overall feel of the planet. It doesn't take that many people, and they've done research through that in Chicago and places like that, where they've had transcendental meditators actually meditating on the city itself, just focusing on the city, and the crime rate radically drops. So it doesn't take too many of us to actually consciously wake up and have an impression on the rest of society. So I feel that it's going to get so ridiculous that they're going to one day just stand up and say something, and everyone's just going to say, no way, I'm not going with this at all. And it's getting to that point now where it's come out of the World Economic Forum, where Klaus Donner and his little group of people were saying, you're going to own nothing and you're going to be happy. I.e., they want to control all the resources, they want to control everything. And I've seen many big entrepreneurs who are turning around and saying, no way, pal, you're not having this, you're not taking this away from me. And I want this opportunity for the rest of humanity. So we're right on the cusp of an enormous change, and this enormous change has been prophesied by the Vedas, the Vedic scripts. We're talking about, we're in the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga is the energy of Kali, and the energy of Kali is like a dark energy, and that you can see it's dark at the moment. And we've been especially in this country, we've had the Dark Ages. We've had a controlling influence on it for hundreds, if not thousands of years. That is coming to an end at this point now, because we're coming out of the Kali Yuga into a golden age, an enlightened age of humanity. For that to happen, you need to have lots of institutions collapsing around you so that new ones can come into the place. So what I feel is happening at the moment is some of these collapses of our societies is contrived, and it's not collapsing in the way that they thought it was going to collapse. And I feel that human beings are going to bring this out of the ashes into a place where we're going, well, we're not going to do that again. We're not going to allow these people to have this centralization of power. I feel that it's going to happen anyway, and it's up to you what part you want to play in it. And it's fun, because when you go out and you actually connect with other human beings like we're doing here, and you just talk openly and you can say what you feel and what you think, whether the other person agrees or not, it doesn't matter. You're not going to go into an argument or like fight with each other, which is what a lot of conversations seem to happen these days when you talk about these issues, because so many people are so politicized. Once you drop the politics of it and you drop the economics of it, then look at it and you're seeing it from a higher consciousness. Then you can see, okay, well, we only need to do small changes, and these small changes are starting to happen already. And that's where I feel it's going, and it's all been prophesied to come into the golden age. Even the Bible said it's the apocalypse right now. We're living through the apocalypse, which is the lifting of the veil, which is, we wouldn't have had this conversation 20 years ago, but now it's becoming more and more acceptable to talk about energy, the political system going wrong, the banking system going wrong. It's okay to talk about it now, but it wasn't 20 years ago. Even though there were people in the know who were putting films out like Follow the Yellow Brick Road, it's like telling us that the banking system's wrong, is all based on the gold standard. And the Wizard of Oz I'm talking about. And you've got this wizard behind the curtain who really isn't in control of anything, but he's just using fear to keep you corralled into this position. That's what's becoming more and more obvious, and you're getting more and more films in Hollywood that are putting this hero's journey into the consciousness of human beings, realizing that we're all going through a hero's journey. All of us are going through this change inside, and once more of us get to realize that, which is why I do all what I do, is once you realise that personally, you going through that hero's journey is you playing your part in this enormous change that's happening right now. And that's all we've got to do, is focus on ourselves and our family and our community and help in whatever way we can. And that will bring the changes that need to happen so desperately on this planet, because it is going horribly wrong, and it will continue to go horribly wrong, I think, for just a little bit longer. And then you're going to, I feel we are seeing the grass shoots that are coming up, where I'm speaking, as I say, to loads of people who are actually changing their consciousness, raising their consciousness and looking at this world and going, oh my goodness me. It's like Krishnamurti, I don't know if you've heard of Krishnamurti, he said many years ago, it's no reflection of health to be profoundly connected to a sick society. So it's no measure of health when you're connected to a sick society, because you're going to go down with it. So it's releasing yourself from society and say, okay, we've got this, we can do this, we've got this is amazing, look at how we live now. We've never had so much prosperity on the planet, but we've also never had so much poverty on the planet as well. So that would be so easily healed so quickly, which is why I've spent a lot of time with the Hare Krishnas, because they go out feeding the poor in London. But in saying that, the people who are in that position have been conditioned so much they don't want to do anything. They just want to get fed there, and they want to have everything for nothing. They don't want to actually contribute into society. So to me, it's what Ilchi Lee has done, which is one of the trainings that I've done. He set up a thing called the Benjamin School, where they're actually going into schools and teaching children, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? And he did a brilliant job, and they were all sitting around going, well, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. What do you want to do? So after about a week, they said, oh, okay, we're going to cycle to Seoul. So they all get bikes and they cycle all up to Seoul, which is about 10 miles or was it 15 kilometers or whatever, and then come back. And then they say to the kids, well, what do you want to do? They say, well, I don't want to do that again. It's hard work. So what do you want to do? And one of them said, I want to be a chef. Okay, so they get the top chefs in from Seoul and they start showing them how to prepare food. These are like 13, 14-year-olds. And they're giving them all the skills to be a professional chef. Or one of them wanted to be a mechanic. And now they've got, one of them's a head chef in one of the top restaurants in Seoul, and another one's like a top mechanic, and we've got a big business in Seoul as well, fixing cars. And they're running their passion, and they're living their life the way that they wanted to live it, because that's what their attributes were. And it's really giving children the opportunity to shine in whichever way that they should shine. Because the way our society now is conditioned is like you've got the pop star celebrity sort of type thing. You ask people what do they want, they say, well, I want to be famous. You say, well, why do you want to be famous? They say, oh, I don't worry about that, I just want to be famous. And most people who are famous, they don't want to be famous. And I remember when I was recognised in the supermarket after a TV appearance, a live TV appearance on the mainstream TV, I didn't like it at all, being approached by people in the supermarket. Oh, I saw you on TV last night. I just found it really awkward. And I was thinking, why do you actually want that when you got people, complete strangers asking you, wow, I saw you on the TV yesterday. And I don't realise the stress and the strain that comes with it. And that's why I feel a lot of the pop stars of today don't realise what a job that is to actually be an entertainer in the music business, because no matter how you feel, no matter how bad you feel or how hungover you are, doesn't matter any of that, your mission is to get up on that stage and shine like a star. You've got to do that week in, week out, every night, shine like a star, no matter how you feel. And I tell you what, that is so stressful, because and that's why I love Ki Gong, because it made me realise that's what I was doing as a musician. I was changing my energy like that, going, okay, I've got to do this now, and you'd snap out of this haze and you'd get into doing your business. But a lot of the younger musicians now, they don't want to go through that hard work of being a performer. They just want the fame. And I think it's messed up goals. It's goals that are coming from outside of you rather than goals that are coming from inside of you. Because if you realise what fame and that money brings, it's a hard life. It's a really hard life. It's not glamorous. It looks glamorous on the outside. And when my wife started following me around for some of the gigs in London, she realised this isn't glamorous, is it? Behind the stage, it all looks good out the front, but it's not so glamorous at the back. And I said, yeah, but it's what I love doing. I love performing in front of people. I love making music, and it's because I love doing it, which is why I did it. It wasn't for the fame or the money or anything like that. It's because I loved it. And it's the same thing with my Ki Gong and meditation practice. I love doing it. I love helping people and seeing them grow. And that's what I do. And I think that's what we need to find as human beings, to allow us to shine as human beings and just let it be. You know, as John the Beatles said, just let it be. Just let it be and let it grow, let it blossom, let it flow. All those old songs I can quote from the 60s and 70s. That's what we need to do as human beings. And that's where the changes are coming, is people realizing that we are absolutely amazing as beings, and we can create this wonderful world which we are actually connected to. And my last point would be, the mess that's outside in the world today is the same mirror as the mess that's inside of us. And that's how seriously we should take the journey inside now, to realise, like you say, oh no, I've got to do my back, I've got to do my hips, start doing that. You know, it's that choice of actually starting to focus on yourself and healing yourself, and then you'll realise that around you is actually starting to heal as well naturally. It is a natural process, I feel, that we're going through, and we're looking at it going, oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? And I feel it's going to be fine. At the end of the day, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I think that through all this mess that we have, you know, every generation has a different feel towards it. I think we kind of the Gen Xers, or whoever, you know, kind of people who didn't grow with the internet, is finding this rapid change of technology very difficult, because human beings only grow with experience, and the technology is so much faster than what we can experience. So we have this mismatch of what's going on around us, and we can't adapt to it. Whereas I think their younger generation is going to grow up with this technology and grow with this technology. So they're going to find, you know, a better way to adjust to this life, and maybe take technology into better ways of using it, as opposed to mishandling it like we've done. So hopefully, you know, we can continue on these conversations throughout this podcast. But you know, for today, I think we had a really wonderful conversation, and thank you very much for your time.
Oh, I loved it. Thank you very much for having me on here. It's been really wonderful. Thank you very much.
Hi, this is your host Takatoshi Shibayama. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Now, if you enjoyed or disliked the show, please let me know by writing in the comment section. The only way I can improve or add value to you is through your voices. If there are any topics that you would like me to pick up, please also let me know in the comments. I'd love to start chatting with you all. And if you would like to continue watching the show, please subscribe. Thank you.